Welcome to this episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I am your host, founder, and executive director of Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for all the support you've given our organization. If you could give us a big thumbs up, share, like, comment, that would be very much appreciated so that we can head towards that goal of helping 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. So it's a huge goal, and those things don't cost anything to do. So we would appreciate that. And as you know by now, you can find us everywhere. You can find us every Wednesday on Hudson Community Television here in the Western Reserve, Northeast Ohio area if you have Spectrum. And you can find us on YouTube, Rumble, and all the audio platforms, whether you like Spotify, whether you like Apple Podcasts, we're there for everybody. So thank you again for joining us. And we're going to kick off this episode by really asking a couple different questions. So the first one is, how many of you would like to either not pay taxes or not be audited every year? So we're coming into the time, right, where the IRS is asking individuals, organizations to file taxes for the previous year, the previous quarter, and if we don't do that, we could be in big trouble. We could face thousands in fines, and depending on the situation, we could find ourselves in jail. And so I would think that any individual or organization who would benefit from not having to pay extra money for the taxes or be audited every year would do that if it was legal. And so this is, again, a hypothetical. So that's kind of the first part. The second part is how would you like it? And I'm even asking my own self the question, how would I like to get $43-45 million every year for an organization? So Voices for Voices is an organization. And I can tell you right now, we don't get 43 million, 45, 1 million. And so I think we could also agree that if there was a way, like a lottery, that we could basically get money for free without having to do a whole lot, we would do that. And so would we have that extra money to potentially pay for a wedding, pay for a house? That would obviously be something that wouldn't be a good thing, because that would be kind of going against the grain. Because as an organization, right, we have missions, we have visions, we have goals, objectives, and that's what we're supposed to be held to that high standard of following. So if there is a grant available, or there is a foundation or a gifting or a donation or a sponsorship opportunity that comes along, when that comes along, the individuals and or organizations are putting their money into an organization for a particular reason. And the particular reason are having something to do with the mission, the vision, the goals, or the objectives of that particular organization. And so that's how things should work. I mean, it's pretty much common sense, I would think, that, you know, if we're given money for a particular reason, that we're using it for that particular reason. So let's start with that first question and dig a little bit deeper, you know, about the, you know, not paying taxes and or having an audit each year. for our organization or for us individuals and households. So that's what's been occurring in our U.S. government. So you may be watching, listening from a country outside the United States, and so you'd have to look at your own individual situation in your government. So if you're in Italy, or we've been actually picking up a lot of you followers and listeners and viewers in Japan and Australia the last month and a half. So you'd have to look at that particular instance for yourself. But speaking in the United States, as that's where where our organization resides, where I reside, and many organizations within the United States federal government, to I think the surprise to a lot of people, regardless, doesn't matter politically what side of the aisle you're on. Just common sense would say, it would be a good thing to be audited, to look at the books, see where money is being spent, if it's really being spent where the money is supposed to for a particular project. And so that's been occurring across a wide variety of agencies here in the United States. And so there's been a lot of uproar, I would say, about the world's most wealthy individual, Elon Musk, coming in as a non-elected member of the administration, the Trump administration, coming in and forming what has been dubbed as DOGE, D-O-G-E, the Department of Government Efficiency. And so that's the organization, or the group that is going into all the agencies within the federal government and looking to make sure that, again, the organizations that have been receiving millions and can you believe it, billions of dollars year over year without really any extra thought going into it. Just, oh, well, this organization got $3 billion last year, so we're going to put them in for $3 billion next year, and the like. So those things have been going on, and we all know that there's always a few not good apples out there. But to find as much as what Elon and his team has in just a few weeks, as far as waste, going into organizations who, coming back to what we talked about at the beginning, have an organization mission, a vision of what the money is supposed to be used for, whether it's the individual running the organization, or it's money coming from the federal government in the form of potentially grants, or other organizations who are on board with the mission and the vision. And so billions has been found just up until the taping of this show to be wasteful spending. And I think how that ties into the taxes and auditing, what also has been found with kind of this frivolous spending within some of the agencies and organizations within the government, they haven't, all those agencies haven't been audited every single year to, again, look at the books, find out what money's coming in, what money is going out, where it's coming from, where it's going. And that's alarming to me as an organization leader who every year we have to file our taxes, we have to show where the money is coming from, where it's going, and that has to be submitted to the federal government. And so why are organizations like Voices for Voices, why do we, with way less money, donations, sponsorships coming in, why should we have to do things a particular way? But if you're within the federal government, oh, well, there have been agencies, it's been found 10, 15 years, they haven't had an audit. And even when they did have an audit, the audits failed. And that's very just troubling as an individual, because if we take that step back, look at ourselves as an individual, and if we missed filing our taxes for 15 years, I can almost guarantee that you and I would be in a lot of trouble from the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. And so that's really what's happening. And another step to that is we think about, oh, well, Elon, he's not elected, and we can all have our opinions, but what we can't really move away from the fact is, here is the world's wealthiest man, and he is actually sleeping on the first floor in a sleeping bag in some of these office buildings that he's doing the now audits that should have been done and continued year after year. And so, he's not staying at the Ritz-Carlton, he's not staying at the W, here's an individual. And so to me, that just shows that an individual is dedicated to what they're doing. So Elon is just kind of the vehicle that is going in and finding, again, he's not looking to, if an organization is doing well and they've been doing things by the books, filing their taxes, they're being audited, and by the way, the building that they're supposed to be working from is actually being occupied, which is another little sliver into that conversation of how many buildings that Elon and his team have gone into that you and I are paying here for in the United States. If you're watching or listening from a different country, you're probably paying taxes, some form of money to your government, and that money is being spent how they see fit. And so you would think, right, that money would be going to good use, that if we have 5 agencies, we have 5 buildings, and that now that we're still in that post-COVID era, and so COVID is still a thing, but it has really dialed back from when it first came out. So that was one of the big reasons how we got into doing heavy remote meetings, on the Zooms and the like, and so that's just another sliver into wasteful spending, because you and I, wherever we're living, if we're living in an apartment, a condo, a house, we're paying some type of monthly fee until we talk about a house and a condo. If we pay those off, then we're still having to pay taxes every year so we can have our homes paid off. But again, there comes that T word, the taxes. And so we're being audited every year as individuals and organizations like ours, Voices for Voices. And so we should have that expectation that, well, so should the government. The government should be audited. They should, they have a building, it should be, let's just say, there should be more than 0 as the number of the individuals as Elon and his team go into certain agencies where there's literally cobwebs around. So that might be a little bit extreme, that there's cobwebs, but that just goes to show that there's some agencies that nobody has been in, or very few people have been in quite a while. And so that just wraps around that efficiency, making sure that our tax money is being spent a little bit wiser. We can't guarantee everything, and this show an episode isn't going to change everything. This is really just kind of like a news flash of what's been happening, and you may have a different take than I do and we do, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree. But again, at the end of the day, I bet you're paying taxes, and I bet you're paying it every year. And if you're not, I bet you've had fines added onto the amount of taxes that your organization would owe. And this isn't just isolated to the common individuals. Celebrities are in the same boat. I know years ago, Wesley Snipes, I remember him playing Willie Mays Hayes in the movie Major League, and he was real fun. I thought he was funny in that movie, and he had been in other movies. But there was a period of time where he wasn't paying his taxes, and he kind of, the IRS kind of caught up to him. And I'm not quite sure where that ended up, but I know that at a minimum he would have to pay the taxes because he wasn't paying for, I think, 10 or 15 years. Or it was quite a long stretch that he wasn't paying the taxes on. So that's really what we're talking about. And how does that affect mental health? Well, if we don't have confidence in our own government, that can make us feel a little bit uneasy about what prerogative the leaders and the people that have been running the country for not just the last 4 years, but many, many, many administrations, even going back to the 60s, nobody really stepped in. We want to think that we can help and fix things across the world, but if we can't fix things in our own backyard, then what use is that? And so that's where the second part of this episode, we talk about having organizations that are specifically, their vision and mission and goals are to help other countries, other causes outside of the United States. And that's a good thing. And it really just comes back to what is our organization, what's the mission, vision, goals, objectives, and are we using the money that is coming in for what that is supposed to be meant for? So if we have a project where we're, let's say, for the example to really kind of round things out, let's say that we have a nonprofit organization where we are using the donations to pay for lunches for individuals from Haiti, because we still know that Haiti is still reeling from the earthquake and natural disasters that have happened. And so that's a good thing to do. And as an organization, that can be part of the organization, or if the organization was specifically set up for that. So if a particular amount of money comes in, $1 million comes in, darn close to $1 million should go out to pay for those meals. So what's that have to do with anything? So there's been reporting, and these have been backed up by Elon and his team, and we've all probably heard in the United States at this point about an organization called USAID. So USAID is an organization, and it happens to have US at the beginning, so one would kind of think that the organization, if we take the acronym out, that it would be United States Aid, not Haiti Aid. And again, that's not to say that we don't want to help other places in the world, and I'm not one to kind of go off on that tangent, because as an organization, we've been to Ukraine, we've been to Poland, and we've done things. But the difference is the money that's coming in is very minimal. And so darn near 98, 99% of the money that was spent to do those mission trips, they were spent by me. That was my money. It wasn't money that was coming in from an organization, a sponsorship. And so that's kind of where we really split off. So if we have things that we want to do a little bit on the side, but are still part of that mission, if it's outside the United States, we should be using our own money. We shouldn't be using money that's coming in for a grant unless that grant is for that particular reason. So Chelsea Clinton, the daughter of past President Bill Clinton and past Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, she has an organization, and her organization was to do just that, was to pay for meals, for lunches, for people living in Haiti. And she was, and has been, receiving close to $43 million a year into that organization. When the books were as the books are kind of being gone through, and Elon and his team found that out of that 43 million, 10 million went to buy a mansion. So again, that's what comes back to, how would you like to just get free money, win the lottery? We would love that, right? And so we don't have to pay the money back. It's just money that's here, and then we want to buy a book, we want to buy a camera, a phone, a car, we want to buy a private jet, whatever that may be. And so 10 million went to pay for a mansion, so that's just fancy term for a big house. And 3 million went to pay for her wedding. And having been married and gone through that process, it can be quite costly. And I can tell you right now, my wife never received $3 million, $2 million, $1 million, $500,000, $400,000. We didn't receive that. And so we call that kind of the bait and switch, right? And you kind of think of the car dealer as an example. So let's say there is a Ford Fusion being advertised for $399 a month, and for a particular period of time, and you or I are in the market for a new car, and we're like, oh wow, this car is what we're looking for. It has all the features, and it fits within our budget. And so we go to the dealer, and we ask one of the representatives about that, and say, hey, I'd like to look at the Ford Fusions, the $399 a month that was on the advertisement that I saw on TV or on YouTube or Spotify as an ad, however that advertisement came through. And the representative of the car dealership says, oh, that's not for the Ford Fusion, that's actually for the Honda Accord. And so we're thinking like, okay, well, these cars are similar in certain ways and dissimilar in certain ways. And so we come back and say, well, but the Ford Fusion is what was advertised, and that's what we want for this price. And they say, oh, well, if you want that, that's actually $450 a month or $499 a month. Again, I'm giving these as hypotheticals, but that would be what we would call the bait and switch. Or say, oh, if you buy this other car, you can get that for $399 a month, and that would qualify for what you saw on television, or you heard on Spotify, or if you're mowing the grass and listen to music and you don't have the premium version, like I don't have the premium version, so ads come in here and there. And so that's what we call the bait and switch. And so that's when we back that up and go back into the story about the organization that Chelsea has by taking that money under the pretense that the money was going to be spent for a certain reason, and that was to pay for lunches for people living in Haiti. Instead, she took that 10 and 3 million, so that 13 million, and bought things personally. Now, as an organization, some dollars, and it really comes down to your board of directors and being upfront with your donors. Just because an individual or a team works for a nonprofit doesn't mean that they wouldn't get paid at some point. We can think of, right here in Northeast Ohio, the Cleveland Clinic's a nonprofit. We just had the Super Bowl. The NFL's a nonprofit, which is incredible to think about because of, I think it was $8 million or so for a 30-second ad. And so that money is going to the network, and the networks are on the back end paying the NFL, and then all that merchandise, all the jerseys, the hats, the towels, those ones that are licensed by the NFL, they're getting a percentage of that. And oh, by the way, Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, again, which is a nonprofit, is pulling in at least, I believe last check was like around $30 million a year. So when we pull, all those layers back and we talk about this Chelsea Clinton organization, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be something that would be out of the ordinary if there was a salary paid, but that salary should not be used for the things, to buy the house and to buy the mansion, buy the house, and then pay for the wedding. And so let's say it's $50,000 a year, or whatever that amount is. So the board of directors are on board with that. If there is literature on a website that mentions that with the financials, then that is something that would be in a better position than what's actually occurred. Because when the curtain is pulled back, it's showing that $10 million and $3 million going to the mansion and the wedding, which would mean the leftover money that would, or the leftover meal money that was supposed to be sent to Haiti came out to somewhere in like $1,500 a meal. And so that's just crazy if you really think about it, that a meal would cost $1,400. Well, when you start doing the numbers, and we did an out of studio episode about numbers and how they're all in our lives one way or another. I'm watching the clock right now of how long we have on the show. There's different cameras, and so just right there's numbers that I have to be somewhat familiar with. So as an organization, we should kind of do what our mission and our vision is. And then, if we want to talk about salary, then that money has to be, again, approved by the board, as well as letting the general public know. So if an individual is donating $10, that they know that maybe $1 of that is going to go to salaries, versus, oh no, we got this organization and here's what we do, and all the money that comes in goes for this particular thing. Well, that particular thing did not occur and is not occurring. So we rewind to the beginning of this episode, and as we were talking about DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, this USAID and how they were spending money on causes outside of the U.S., outside of our kind of national security posture. The organization that Chelsea runs came to the top, and it's probably because she's a big name, right? She's a daughter of a former president and a former Secretary of State, so it's kind of like pulling a celebrity out and making an example of them. And so that's what Elon and his team are really doing. They're trying to come in, and not just trying. They're coming in and they're looking for organizations to be run efficiently, and where there's money being spent outside the scope of what it's supposed to be spent on, outside of that mission, vision, goals, and objectives, then that needs to stop. And so that's really what's occurring. So for me, my mental health is a little bit better just knowing that there's things going on that are going to help push our government a little bit closer to what we have to do as individuals. And Voices for Voices, and that is to pay our taxes and to do what we say we're going to do with the money that we receive from donations. So until next time, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. Again, if you can give us a big thumbs up, like, share, comment, we would appreciate that. And so until next time, please be a voice for you or somebody in need.